Craig and I are going to give you our version of the roster as of today. Not who's going to make the team in December, but who's going to be on it as of today. For Craig and I, we're picking it. We're going to go through the forwards, the defense, and then the goaltenders. Now, we haven't spoken about this, so we may agree, we may disagree. Who knows where this will go, but I like to be right. I like to start strong. So my first line center, Craig, for the Team Canada is going to be Connor McDavid. What does your first line look like?
Yeah, that 97 in the middle on the top line. That might be the easiest one to have. Well, maybe the second easiest will be the second line center. But Zach Hyman, who may not be off to the greatest start, he still has shown and demonstrated a clear ability to play with McDavid. So I'm not worried about a slow start. I'm worried about what the team will look like when they don the jersey and start playing games. And I think Hyman is a really good fit. And as I switch over to the right side, I have Sam Reinhart. Sam Reinhart is a brilliantly smart player that can understand when to get open, how to get open, where to get open. And when you're playing with Connor McDavid, who's going to break down a lot of defenders, I think that's a really important quality to have when you're playing alongside Connor McDavid.
I like it, Craig. I have the same sort of thought process for Hyman. Yes, not a great start, but he's shown that he can score there. He can do the work along the boards. He can complement McDavid. I got Mitch Marner for a lot of the same reason that you have Sam Reinhart on the right side. Mitch Marner, he went out to Vail in the summer, skated with Connor McDavid. They talked about how much they like playing with each other, hey, they see the same game, and I think Connor McDavid turning into a bit more of a goal scorer in this kind of tournament would be nice. Mitch Marner, a facilitator, and Marner maybe a little bit better skater than Sam Reinhart. I think we both like them for the defensive acumen that Reinhart or Marner will bring. I just think Marner would fit in nicely in that role on the first line.
Yeah, listen, Mitch Marner is a top flight player. And as you point out, both he and Reinhart are really good defensively. They're players that you can put out there shorthanded at 5-on-5. They're strong and create opportunities and don't take away anything from the offensive side of things. So we're sitting here kind of looking Sam Reinhart, Mitch Marner. That's a really good problem to have. So, Mike, here's what I'm going to do. You started off by saying you're right. I'm going to go with Mitch Marner alongside McDavid and Hyman on that top line.
I like it. Let's not discount Hyman and Marner have some history, right? With the Toronto Maple Leafs, there is some continuity there as well. It's going to be a short tournament. You're going to get up and running really fast. These guys haven't played together in this kind of moment really in the last several years. So, okay, we'll leave Marner. So, our first line, Hyman, McDavid, Marner. Okay, I like that. We're off to a good start, Craig. My second line, I will go with you. You said the second line center might be an easy pick. Nate MacKinnon, obviously one of the best players in the world. I have him in the middle. I think he's got to play in the middle. I know he may want to play with Sidney Crosby. He doesn't get to do that right now. He's got to drive that second line. He's a force when he plays in the middle. Now, I have him playing on the left with Brayden Point. Because Brayden Point is too good to play too far down the lineup. He's got to play with your best players because he is one of the best players. He's good defensively, which I think can help Nate MacKinnon to free him up. He can also defer to a guy who wants the puck, which Nate MacKinnon does, and Point can be a finisher, can also take faceoffs and play in his own end. I like that. And then I took the guy that you had on the first line, Sam Reinhart. He's my second line right winger for the exact same reasons you had him on the first line. He'll do so many of the other same things, but Point and MacKinnon can race up and down the ice. Reinhart can float around, find ways to create offense and finish plays like he's doing at the beginning of the year, like he did all last year. I got Point, MacKinnon, Reinhart.
So I'm going to say this right now. I like that line. I like the way it's constructed. I like your thinking on that. I had Carter Verhaeghe as a left winger playing with MacKinnon because he's smart and he can really skate at that same level near MacKinnon, and then Point on the right wing. But I like the thinking. And MacKinnon, he plays it at a frenzied pace. It's almost frantic-like. And you need players that really understand how to play alongside Nate MacKinnon. And you just pointed out Reinhart and Point know exactly what that can look like. They know what it feels like. So again, Mike, I like that thinking on the second line. And really what we're getting to right here is we're getting to the point where we see the options that Team Canada has and understanding where a fit can be, where a better fit could be, because the fits are all good, I think, but where's the best fit? So I'm going to go alongside Sam Reinhart, the right shot, playing on the left side. So it looks like we got our top two lines, and they're two really good top lines.
Now, Craig, I think it's going to get really interesting. Third line. Okay, I'll go first. I got Sidney Crosby, third line center, right? He's on the team. He's going to be a leader. He's going to play that role. Bergeron used to be down there, but Crosby, third line center, he can still create offense. We know that. But when tasked with something specific like dig into defense, you know Sidney Crosby in this kind of tournament, seeing McDavid and MacKinnon in front of him, will embrace that role. As a leader on the team, as a guy who's won internationally, like, yeah, you want me to check? I will check the heck out of anybody because I can. And when he's determined to do it, he can. I have him with Brad Marchand. I think they're sort of attached at the hip at this point in these kind of teams on the left side. And on the right side, I went with a wild card, Craig. A guy who's got to be fast to create some offense, a guy who can be versatile, Matt Barzal. Because when he wants to check, he can, but he can also create a little bit of offense and add an element of speed, because Marchand's not quite as fast as he once was, and a little speed to work with Crosby on the right side. Marchand, Crosby, Barzal. Well, that's my third line.
You think about 1, 2, 3, McDavid, MacKinnon, and Crosby. Crosby is still a top flight player in the National Hockey League, one of the best players still at this stage of his career in the world. And so he's your third line center and everything you pointed out. I mean, we talk about Brad Marchand, and Brad Marchand is such a smart player, and him and Sidney Crosby have demonstrated that they can have that chemistry. I don't have Barzal on the right side. I think Matt Barzal holds on to the puck too long. I think Matt Barzal wants to have the puck. He dances around, and he looks good dancing around. I don't think he's the right fit there. You think about that line of Marchand, Crosby, and Bergeron. The type of player that I think would really benefit playing there, and we might say, oh, it's a little bit too slow. Mark Stone is still a top player here. And Mark Stone is big and strong, and he's smart. And he knows how to play, and he knows how to get advantages in the game. I think that for that type of a line that I think can really be a line that gives Team Canada an opportunity to establish a presence, to establish a certain style of play coming after McDavid. Because opponents are going to have to defend McDavid and MacKinnon in a different way than they'll have to defend that line. And I think that line can throw a lot of different looks at you and make life really difficult for whatever opponent they're up against. And so I'm fine with Marchand on the left side with Crosby, as you said, attached to the hip. But I'd have Mark Stone on the right wing playing with Crosby. And Mark Stone, he's never been a fast skater, but he's always been a top player. So if we keep talking about skating, I'm not worried about Mark Stone one bit.
Okay, so listen, Mark Stone's on my roster. He's my fourth line winger. So I like him for the fit on the fourth line, but I will concede on that third line, if that's going to be sort of a defensively responsible, checking, tone-setting veteran line, it makes a lot of sense. And Mark Stone is so smart. And more than anything, to play with Crosby, you got to be smart. And Stone is that. And so, yeah, speed, I'm a little concerned Marchand and Stone on the wings. But if you're going to make up with your brain what you lack maybe in foot speed or youth, you could do a lot worse. All right, Craig, I'll give you Stone temporarily because I need to see what happens on the fourth line before I lock it right in. But we'll go with Marchand and Crosby and Stone on the third line. All right, fourth line, Craig, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I think Mark Scheifele, big, strong center in the middle of the ice. He can also swing to the wing, and I think that type of flexibility, as well as he's a shooter. And I think that Mark Scheifele playing on the fourth line, you think about that speed, that skill. On the left side, Mike, I have Alexis Lafreniere. I think Alexis Lafreniere has played really, really well during the course of the last season and early
Craig,
in this season. And Craig, I like what he does.
Great mind think alike, Craig.
Well,
I got
okay, good.
Lafreniere
We're
on
there.
the left line. I got him on the left line, fourth wing too. So we're on the same page. Keep going. I like it.
Okay, good. And then on the right side, and see, this is where it gets interesting. Like, you have Travis Konechny. You have, as you just pointed out, you have Matt Barzal. I also, and maybe Tom Wilson comes into that mix, but we can only have two of those three players. So when I look at it, and I'm going to go two, I'm going to pick two here. And so my two players would be Barzal and Tommy Wilson as the right winger. One of them will be the 13th forward, but I like the flexibility of having those types of players. They're different types of players, which gives the coaching staff some flexibility in your lineup and within the course of a game, depending on what you're confronted with and how you can give a different type of look to your opponent.
Okay, I like where your head's at. My concern is, you just mentioned it, right? The depth of the players in front the first three lines. That fourth line is not going to get to play a lot. You want them to be versatile, which some of your guys have, Craig, but you also need them to be reliable on two fronts. Mark Scheifele, very good player, very good offensive player. He's not instinctively a great defensive player. He's just not. It's not been the forte of his game. And I think in that role, you're going to need a guy who occasionally, if there's an injury or something happens, he can slide up. But more importantly, he's super reliable down there. And I think, I don't know if Scheifele brings that. And the other part about it is tight margins, penalties. Like Tom Wilson is a physical player. We love that. He's off to a great start to his season. He looks like he's healthy again. But, if it's a 2-2 game, you got to make sure he doesn't take a bad penalty. So I see where you're coming from. My fourth line, I had Lafreniere. I think we both like what he's done, growing into his game, showing that elite level talent that made him such a high pick first overall. I got Nick Suzuki because Nick Suzuki is responsible, he's durable, steady. I want steady in my fourth line. I'm not looking for points. I got points galore up top. I want steady, and I think he's a bit steadier than Mark Scheifele. Maybe not as good offensively, but maybe just a little bit more well-rounded. And then I would have Barzal, I suppose. I had Stone down there, so I put him on the third line. I'd have Barzal, a guy, again, that could do a lot of different things, be a difference maker, but when committed to defense, is smart enough to not get you in trouble. Different kind of feel. Not nearly as physical as the guys you had, Craig, but I'm thinking sort of checking, responsible pace in 8 or 10 or 12 minutes, and maybe a little versatility mixed in there. So I don't know where you come down on Lafreniere, Suzuki, and I'll get Barzal in there because I swapped him down from the third line.
Well, I have no problem. Listen, Nick Suzuki is such a brilliant player, and no matter what you ask Nick Suzuki to do, he can do it. And to your point, Mark Scheifele's played really strong for the Winnipeg Jets, and he's very gifted. But that player that can just seamlessly fit, no matter what you ask him to do, that's Nick Suzuki. So we can put Nick Suzuki in as the fourth line center. I have no problem with Matt Barzal. He's got that skill level, and he can scale up your lineup depending on what you need. One of the things that we know with Team Canada, rarely does it finish how they start with respect to their lineup composition. But to be able to have some flexibility to move some players up the lineup, move some players around, I think that Barzal gives them that. Nick Suzuki is really good. And now I guess what we have to do, Mike, is who's the 13th forward? Who is the 13th forward?
Well, listen, Craig. Craig, are you telling me we're actually going to make this team without Connor Bedard on this team? It seems like the 13th forward is the perfect place for Connor Bedard to be because he could still grow for a couple more months in the NHL after being picked on this team. He's gotten off to a good start. We know even when he seemingly doesn't play as well as you might want him to, he still piles up points. I saw him do it at the World Championship. And his production while wearing the Canadian Maple Leaf is historically great. Greatest of all time, from 18s to World Juniors to World Championship, you name it. He scores when he plays for Canada. I can't let you, in good conscience, not put Connor Bedard on this team, Craig. He's got to be the 13th forward, doesn't he?
He's on. And for all the reasons you talked about, what he has done for Team Canada, and as well, he's also going to be the future of Team Canada. There's no doubt that he's going to have a big presence on Team Canada. To be around the likes of McDavid and Crosby and MacKinnon and all these top players that have had massive success in the National Hockey League, I think for multiple reasons, and the ones you pointed out are all there. So Connor Bedard, number 13, but he can't wear 13.
Number 98, but I like our 13 forwards. We're locked and loaded. Team Canada looking strong up front.